advantage. Because of other measures taken as well as this by the Muslims, it became impossible for the Spanish to surround the Muslims, which was a very good thing for the Muslims. Alhamdulillah. Rodrigo, the Spanish general, came to the battle in luxury out of his arrogance. The kuffar brought with them plenty of mules and ropes. This shows just how arrogant they were. These mules and ropes were meant to carry all of the new slaves that they thought they would be bringing back to Toledo, their capital, once they won the battle, as they thought that they would. They were so convinced that they would win it, that they were even looking ahead to what they should do once it's over. SubhanAllah, they had no idea what was coming. The battle started, and Rodrigo was absolutely shocked by what he saw. He expected the might of his 100,000 strong cavalry to crush and trample the handful of Muslim infantry within moments. But that Ramadan, he did not encounter the typical enemy.
من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا.
That day, he encountered an invading army of mujahideen that wanted to die more than he and his whole army wanted to live. They wanted to be martyrs and have their blood spilled for the sake of Allah more than he wanted to rule over his kingdom and sit on top of his throne.
إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة يقاتلون في سبيل الله فيقتلون ويقتلون وعدا عليه حقا في التوراة والإنجيل والقرآن ومن أوفى بعهده من الله فاستبشروا ببيعكم الذي بايعتم به وذلك هو الفوز العظيم.
The desire for death was expressed in the fierce fighting that took place. And the Visigoths were defeated and crushed. It was a critical victory for the Muslims, and it was the beginning of a new era in world history. It marked the dominance of Islam in southern Europe. So the Muslims absolutely dominated the battlefield, and they won that day a tremendous victory comparable to the great battles of Yarmouk and Al-Qadisiyah so many years ago by Umar ibn al-Khattab and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Khalid ibn Walid. So what happened to Rodrigo, the Spanish tyrant that everyone hated? According to one account, he drowned while trying to escape the fighting. The other account says that he fled and went deep into southern Spain, but then he was captured and then he was killed. Either way, he died.
واستفتحوا وخاب كل جبار عنيد.
After this crushing defeat of the most major army in the Iberian Peninsula, the Visigoths were unable to regroup and to form another major army because of internal conflict among the Spanish. The followers of Rodrigo were still opposed to Ortiza, and the Spanish Civil War was going on. After this great invasion, the Muslims went on to the Battle of As-Sujja, which was also a very decisive battle. Tariq ibn Ziyad saw the opportunity to advance even further. And even though Tariq ibn Ziyad has strict orders from Musa ibn Nusayr not to advance past Cordoba, he went on anyway and conquered Seville and conquered the city of Cordoba itself. He conquered Granada as well. He received news that Toledo, the Spanish capital itself, was exposed, since many had fled from it. So even though he had strict orders not to move on, he continued nonetheless because he saw an opportunity. And he continued with part of his army, not all of it. He continued with 6,000 to 7,000 mujahideen, and he captured the capital, Toledo.
وما جعله الله إلا بشرى لكم ولتطمئن قلوبكم به وما النصر إلا من عند الله العزيز الحكيم.
He received news from Musa ibn Nusayr not to advance any further. That's enough. You did enough. Because Musa ibn Nusayr, out of his wisdom, didn't want someone to come around from the rear and to ambush Tariq ibn Ziyad and to surround them. So eventually Musa ibn Nusayr, the mastermind behind this entire conquest, would arrive on the shores of Al-Andalus with the 18,000 troop army of the Khalifa from Damascus. And he would continue conquering new areas of the Iberian Peninsula with Tariq ibn Ziyad until they stabilized the region and established Islam throughout it. They eventually conquered Portugal and ports along the Mediterranean shore. 1 year after the invasion, the two armies met, after having not only conquered, but secured the entire Iberian Peninsula and any rebellions which may take place. They went on to capture Zaragoza, Barcelona, and they even went on to cross the mountains of northern Spain and began conquering territory in southern France. The French city of Narbonne was conquered by both Tariq ibn Ziyad and Musa ibn Nusayr together, and it remained in Muslim hands for centuries. By 95 years after the Hijrah, 2.5 years after they began conquering, they conquered all of the Iberian Peninsula except for the northwestern tip, and they reached southern France as well, until the Khalifa Al-Walid ibn Abdul-Malik sent them a letter ordering them to stop conquering, and for both Musa ibn Nusayr and Tariq ibn Ziyad to return to Damascus to meet the Khalifa himself. The reason Al-Walid commanded the conquering Muslims to stop was because he believed that the goal of Musa ibn Nusayr wasn't just to conquer Spain, but it was to strategically conquer all of southern Europe, including the boot of Italy, and to ultimately conquer Constantinople from the west, which was way more than Al-Walid ibn Abdul-Malik was ready to do. Al-Walid was dying by the time Musa and Tariq arrived, and Sulaiman ibn Abdul-Malik became the Khalifa. Sulaiman invited Musa ibn Nusayr to go to Hajj with him, but did not allow him to continue conquering. So Musa ibn Nusayr did go to Hajj with the Khalifa, and he made his famous dua, Allahumma in lam takun qad katabta li shahadata mujahidan fi sabilik, faktub li al-mawta fi madinati habibik. Oh Allah, if you have not written for me the shahada, martyrdom, as a mujahid in your cause, then prescribe for me my death in the city of your beloved, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he eventually did die on the way back from Hajj in Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara. Tariq ibn Ziyad went back to Damascus, the capital of the Khilafah, and no one knows what eventually happened to him. Some reports say that he went back to Tangiers, while others say that he stayed in Damascus, and others still say that he even went back to Spain. No one really knows what happened to our hero Tariq ibn Ziyad, rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy on both Musa ibn Nusayr and Tariq ibn Ziyad, these two great legends of Islam who brought such a great victory for the Ummah in the month of Ramadan, the month of jihad. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله